Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive right in, because today we are going to totally demystify earthworm biology and give you the exact actionable steps you need to turn your everyday organic kitchen waste into incredibly high-quality soil enrichment. We're looking at the real science and the practical side of vermiculture.
Waste to wealth. Honestly, this simple phrase hits the nail on the head when it comes to the sheer ecological superpower of the earthworm. In nature, their whole existence revolves entirely around nutrient recycling and soil aeration. They eat dead and decaying matter, swallow some soil along the way, and then excrete out these highly nutrient-rich castings. That's your vermicompost, and it's extraordinarily beneficial for plants. They are literally taking everyday decaying trash and turning it into invaluable wealth for our ecosystems.
So here's our roadmap for today. 1. Meet the earthworm. 2. Anatomy and reproduction. 3. Earthworm identification groups. 4. Building your vermiculture bin. And 5. Harvesting and vermiculture benefits. Let's get started.
Section 1. Meet the earthworm, our ultimate ecosystem engineers.
Okay, what is really wild here is the sheer paradox of their anatomy. We are talking about a creature that has absolutely no eyes, no discernible head, and literally zero lungs. Yet, despite looking so incredibly basic, they have a fully functional blood circulation system and a simple nervous system. But the craziest part is how they breathe. Because they don't have lungs, they respire or breathe directly through their moist skin. Keep that biological fact in the back of your mind because it basically dictates exactly how we need to care for them later on.
Moving right along to Section 2, Anatomy and Reproduction, focusing on their physical structure.
The absolute most crucial anatomical feature you need to know is the clitellum. Now, earthworms are hermaphroditic, meaning each individual worm has both male and female reproductive organs, but they still need to pair up for cross-fertilization. So, what is the clitellum? It's that distinct, slightly raised, saddle-looking band you've probably seen on their bodies. Its whole job is cocoon formation. And the actual fertilization of the egg, it happens entirely inside that little cocoon.
You can actually play backyard detective to identify them just by counting their segments. A worm's body starts at the prostomium at the very front and ends at the anal segment in the back, adding up to anywhere from 100 to 120 individual segments. And we actually categorize them based on where that saddle-like clitellum is. Segments 1 through 13 are the pre-clitellar region. The clitellar region itself sits right on segments 14, 15, and 16. Everything from 17 on is post-clitellar. Oh, and how do they move without legs? Well, they've got these tiny hair-like bristles called setae covering almost their entire body. You might even need a magnifying glass to see them, but these setae are how they group the dirt to crawl, wiggle, and sometimes even jump.
Which brings us to Section 3, Earthworm Identification Groups, looking at their behavior and habitats.
Not all earthworms have the same day job. They basically fall into 3 distinct behavioral groups. First up, the Epigeic worms. These are your surface dwellers living in leaf litter or compost piles. They're usually small and dark-colored, and the most famous one here is the red wiggler, which is absolutely going to be your best friend for composting. Next are the Endogeic worms. These are the paler, smaller soil bed dwellers that just kind of hang out in the upper soil layers. Finally, the Anecic group. These are the heavy lifters, large worms with dark heads and pale tails that dig those deep vertical burrows way down into the earth. For our waste conversion goals today, though, we are zeroing in heavily on that first group, the Epigeic red wigglers.
All right, Section 4, building your vermiculture bin and creating that perfect habitat.
25 to 1. If you remember one number today, make it this one. This golden ratio represents the ideal carbon to nitrogen mix for your worm bedding. It sounds super scientific, but you can easily hit this ratio just by mixing some shredded brown paper, which is your carbon, right in with your nitrogen-rich kitchen food waste. Getting this balance right is literally the foundation of a healthy, odor-free vermiculable bin.
Now, beyond the food, the vibe in the bin has to be strictly controlled. You want the temperature sitting comfortably between 15 to 25 degrees Celsius, or roughly 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The soil pH needs to be fairly neutral, around 6.5 to 7.5. But here is the absolute most critical part. The moisture level must stay at 60 to 70% humidity. Remember earlier when we talked about how they have no lungs and breathe entirely through their skin? Well, this is why. If that bin dries out and their skin loses its moisture, they literally cannot breathe.
So, physically setting up the bin is actually a breeze. Just follow a few deliberate steps. First, because they obviously need oxygen, make sure you're using a bin with good aeration holes. Second, put down a nice solid layer of bedding. Shredded paper or coconut coir works wonders here. Third, it's mealtime. Toss in your organic waste, stuff like veggie scraps, fruit peels, leftover coffee grounds. But here's the pro tip. Always bury the food deep under the bedding. This speeds up decomposition and lets those red wigglers feast and reproduce rapidly without attracting fruit flies.
And finally, Section 5, Harvesting and Vermiculture Benefits. It is time for the payoff.
Okay, this is the #1 question beginners always ask. You've fed them your scraps, they've done their magic, but how in the world do you actually extract that incredibly valuable vermicompost without, scooping out your entire living colony of worms at the same time?
Well, the harvesting process is actually brilliant because you just use their natural biology to do the heavy lifting for you. First, just gently pull back that top layer of bedding. Then, you use this clever early morning technique. See, worms naturally hate light and they're constantly chasing moisture. So if you manipulate the early morning light and only moisten one specific side of the bin, the worms will literally migrate over to that side all on their own. That leaves the other half of the bin completely clear for you to just easily scoop out your finished compost. It's almost too easy.
And what a massive payoff it is. By just taking advantage of their natural diet and digestion, you get high-quality organic fertilizer, plus this highly concentrated, nutrient-rich runoff known as worm tea, which is basically liquid gold for any garden. But beyond just helping your plants, you're actively keeping heavy rotting food waste out of our already overflowing landfills. That is a massive win for your household's carbon footprint. Honestly, the compost they produce is in such high demand that rearing these guys can actually turn into a really profitable little side hustle if you scale it up.
So I'm going to leave you with this thought to mull over the next time you scrape your dinner plate into the trash. How much of your daily landfill waste could you completely eliminate right under your own sink with just a simple box of red wigglers? Nature has literally given us the absolute perfect waste management engineers, wrapped in tiny, lungless, segmented bodies. All we have to do is put them to work. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy composting.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.